The government fully accepts the Land Supply Task Force's 8 recommendations. Thousands of people rally across France in response to a surge of anti-Semitic incidents. And Britain strips a teenager who joined ISIS in Syria of her UK citizenship.
Hello and a very good evening. The government has fully accepted the 8 recommendations put forward by the Task Force on Land Supply. And that includes using 32 hectares of land at the Hong Kong Golf Club for housing development as well as land reclamations. Sharon Tang has more details.
Authorities today announced its full acceptance of all 8 options put forward by the Task Force on Land Supply. One main focus of today's press conference was the government's decision to develop 32 hectares of land at the Hong Kong Golf Club in Fanling.
There's no painless solution. As I explained, the decision of the Council, reflects a very careful balance of the need of the community in the short to medium term for more housing, in particular public housing, and also the contributions of Fanling Golf Course to golf development in Hong Kong.
The development chief said at least 70% of that piece of land will be used for public housing, and construction works are expected to begin in 5 years' time at the earliest. The golf club occupies a total area of 172 hectares, but authorities say they have no intention to develop the rest of the site. A lawmaker disagrees with the partial development plan.
Everybody knows Hong Kong is a very tiny city. I don't think we have conditions to satisfy all the entertainment needs, especially some sports like golf. I think Hong Kong cannot just offer this piece of land for this amusement, but not for the more urgent needs like housing and hospital needs.
Some golfers aren't happy with the decision either.
We are very disappointed and also frustrated. If the government actually would take back 32 hectares, the European Tour will cancel Hong Kong Open as one of the events. I hope government will change their mind.
Officials added they would speed up the development of brownfield sites in the new territories. The Task Force on Land Supply did not include the development of land on the periphery of country parks in its recommendations to the government. The government says it agrees with the exclusion, given the strong reservations expressed during an earlier public consultation. Sharon Tang, TVB News.
Chief Executive Carrie Lam today dismissed lawmakers' concerns over the Greater Bay Area Development Plan and proposed changes to the extradition law. But as Haley Joe reports, some of them remain unconvinced.
Carrie Lam betrayed Hong Kong. 6 pan-democratic lawmakers shouted slogans as the chief executive arrived at the Legislative Council this morning for her monthly question and answer session. The legislators protested against the proposed changes to the extradition law. If the legislative amendment is passed, mainland Taiwan and Macau authorities will be able to request Hong Kong to send fugitives back to their jurisdictions. Some pro-democracy lawmakers are concerned the law could be misused for political prosecutions.
Now, in the future, Beijing can arrest anyone in Hong Kong whom it dislikes. If Beijing asks you to hand someone over, do you dare to reject that request? Now, we're talking about a case-based approach, and the role of the CE is just to trigger the procedures.
The CE, Carrie Lam, basically tried to hide behind the court system. And because of the evidence issue, the court itself is hardly can make any decision to reject the applications.
Lawmakers also asked for details on the Greater Bay Area Development Plan. Instead of giving direct answers, the chief executive asked lawmakers to raise any concerns with her. The CE hailed the Greater Bay Area plan as Wall Street meets Silicon Valley and said the aim is to develop the region rather than compete with the other cities.
As of now, we are against this supposed grand plan. This is no good for Hong Kong. They are worried about Hong Kong identity because we are different. We are supposed to be different. If not, why bother about this one country, two system promise?
Haley Zhou, TVB News.
US President Donald Trump remains optimistic that Washington and Beijing will make more progress in ongoing Sino-US trade talks. This comes as the March 1st deadline of their 90-day truce looms ever closer. Trump says the March 1st deadline is not a magical date and he's willing to delay it pending the outcome of the talks.
Well, they are very complex talks. They're going very well. I can't tell you exactly about timing, but the date is not a magical date. A lot of things can happen. The real question will be, will we raise the tariffs because they automatically kick into 25% as of on $200 billion worth of goods that they send. So I know that China would like not for that to happen, so I think they're trying to move fast so that doesn't happen.
Meanwhile, Washington has reportedly asked Beijing to address the value of the yuan as part of the trade deal. The move is said to be aimed at countering any effort by China to devalue the yuan in a bid to offset American tariffs. The Trump administration insisted that any moves to devalue the yuan to buoy Chinese exports would be met with additional or more severe US tariffs. Following the report, the offshore yuan posted strong gains and last traded at 6.7275 against the greenback.
And President Trump claims great things will come out of his upcoming summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in Vietnam. Trump says he's in no rush to achieve some of the main goals, such as Pyongyang getting rid of all of its nuclear weapons.
Well, I'd just like to see ultimately denuclearization of North Korea. I think we will see that ultimately. I have no pressing time schedule. And I think a lot of people would like to see it go very quickly from the other side. I really believe that North Korea can be a tremendous economic power when this is solved. Their location between Russia, China, and South Korea is unbelievable. I think that North Korea and Chairman Kim have some very positive things in mind, and we'll soon find out. But I'm in no rush. There's no testing. As long as there's no testing, I'm in no rush. If there's testing, that's another deal. But there has been no testing.
Rallies against anti-Semitism attracted crowds of thousands in Paris and other cities across France following a series of aggressive anti-Jewish acts. The latest was at a cemetery where almost 100 gravestones were desecrated. Our Alan Booknia reports.
Political leaders from almost all parties joined the thousands that filled the Place de la République in Paris with the common slogan, "Enough." However, Marine Le Pen's far-right National Party staged a separate rally. Just days ago, the French government reported a big rise in anti-Semitic incidents. The 541 incidents last year represent a 74% rise from 2017. France has the highest Jewish population in Europe, around 550,000, and the third highest in the world after Israel and the United States. It's risen by half since World War II. Just hours before the rally, almost 100 gravestones in a Jewish cemetery in a small Alsace town were found vandalized, some with swastikas painted on them. The upsurge in anti-Semitism reached a climax last weekend during a yellow vest anti-government rally. Prominent Jewish philosopher Elaine von Kielkraut met with a torrent of hate speech as protesters shouted, "France is ours." Hours before the rally, French President Emmanuel Macron visited the cemetery, calling the act's absurd stupidity. He said whoever did this is not worthy of the French Republic and vowed to take strong action to punish the perpetrators. Macron later visited the Shoah Memorial, a Holocaust museum in Paris, where he observed a moment of silence with parliamentary leaders. Alan Booknia, TVB News.
Staying in Europe now, and British Prime Minister Theresa May is in Brussels once again to meet with European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker. She's making a new bid to win some vital concessions over the UK's Brexit deal with the EU. The British Foreign Secretary says if the EU can offer new reassurances over the contentious Irish backstop, then a breakthrough might come. Britain is set to crash out of the world's biggest trading bloc in 37 days, unless the Prime Minister can persuade members of Parliament or the European Union to compromise over the Brexit deal. Right now, Theresa May is hoping the EU will offer some much-needed wiggle room on the Irish backstop. Britain's Brexit minister maintained the official line that changes to the deal can be made.
We're committed to securing a solution. It is in the country's interest to secure a deal, to move forward with the certainty that the business community in particular are asking for, to safeguard what is in the deal in terms of EU citizens' rights and also the rights of our nationals in the EU. So it's right we secure a deal. That's what we're working to deliver, and there's a strong commitment within government to do so.
The Irish backstop has been the key sticking point throughout this crisis. It's an insurance policy to prevent the return of extensive checks on the sensitive border between EU member Ireland and the British province of Northern Ireland. May agreed on the protocol with EU leaders back in November, but then saw it rejected last month by UK lawmakers who say it will tie Britain to European rules indefinitely. Today, Britain's Foreign Secretary said if the UK got legal reassurances from the EU over the backstop, that would strengthen May's hand in being able to persuade Parliament to vote for the Brexit deal. The Prime Minister has promised Parliament to renegotiate her Brexit agreement to try to put a time limit on the protocol or give Britain some other way of getting out of an arrangement which her critics say, as it stands, leaves the country trapped by the EU. Meanwhile, an eighth lawmaker has resigned from Britain's Labour Party, increasing the pressure on leader Jeremy Corbyn to tackle allegations that anti-Semitism is rife within the party. Joan Ryan tweeted overnight that she was resigning over concerns about anti-Semitism in the party, as well as the direction Labour was taking under Corbyn. 7 other Labour lawmakers quit on Monday, citing anti-Semitism as well as worries about the party's stance on Brexit and fears it was heading to the hard left of politics. Corbyn says he's disappointed at their decision and insists the party he leads is open to all points of view.
The family of a teenage girl who left London 4 years ago to join the Islamic State group has been told she's losing her UK citizenship. 19-year-old Shamima Begum ran away with 2 friends in 2015 and traveled to Syria. Now at 19 years old, she says she's given birth to 3 children. 2 of them died earlier, and she wants to come home to raise a newborn son. The case has reignited debate in the UK about how to deal with people who join Islamic State but subsequently want to come back. Britain's Home Secretary Sajid Javid has said he wouldn't hesitate to prevent the return to Britain of anyone who supported terrorist organizations abroad.
And still ahead on the news tonight, a look back at the life of fashion icon Karl Lagerfeld. US Senator Bernie Sanders running for president again. And a planned immigration headquarters in Tseung Kwan O passes its first funding hurdle.
Arturo Marquez was armed with automatic weapons when he boarded a relief ship.
He's being charged with piracy.
Drama on the high seas.
Piracy. The sentence is life in prison.
Comes to the mother court.
I stole, but I had to stop the suffering around me.
I'm getting destroyed in there.
What's the most extraordinary thing you can do?
You're asking the jury to disregard the law.
I am asking you to do the right thing.
Tonight, for the people at 10:40 on Pearl.
Art can be seen as so foundational to civilization, an expression of humanity.
Why do humans make art? What do these masks say about a lost ancient civilization in China? Thursday, Civilizations at 9:35 on Pearl Heritage.
This hotel, I'm gonna love it. Mint chocolates on the pillow, tiny shampoo bottles in the bathroom, and fluffy pancakes for breakfast. How do I know so much about this hotel? It's simple. Trivago gathers reviews from multiple websites worldwide. Ratings for rooms, service, and food can be easily compared, so I know at a glance that I'm gonna love it. That way I can make the right choice for me And for him as well. Hotel Trivago.
有啲嘢可以放低一時，但好難放低一世。富慧相信退休之後，你可以更盡情去做你一直想做嘅自己。我哋會為你度身訂造退休3大範疇，結合儲蓄、保障、傳承，全方位支持你。退休任我行。FWD 富慧保險。
And you? What would you do for love? Miss Dior, the new eau de toilette.
放心啦，媽咪，我會翻嚟食飯㗎啦。佢今日打咗10幾次電話嚟叫我翻去食飯，但係我都開心㗎。
媽，就算爸爸唔認得我哋，
佢都知我哋錫佢㗎。
因為我哋成日陪佢咯。
佢又唔認得路返屋企啦。
好彩有你幫手咋。
Visit the Social Welfare Department website to learn more about the Dementia-Friendly Community Campaign. Join the courses and register as a dementia friend.
This year's Best Picture nominees are Black Panther, Black Klansman, Bohemian Rhapsody, The Favourite, Green Book, Roma, A Star is Born, and Vice. Catch the Oscars Monday live on Pearl, the exclusive broadcaster in Hong Kong.
And welcome back. Condolences are pouring in from around the world for famous designer Karl Lagerfeld, who passed away yesterday in Paris. He was an icon of the fashion industry who spent 65 years creating the most innovative designs.
German-born Karl Lagerfeld lived the majority of his life in Paris, but spent what's considered a lifetime in the fashion industry working at Fendi. He was with the Italian brand for 54 years. By 1983, he joined Chanel, but he continued to create trendy fashions for Fendi and other French designers. But it was his work at Chanel for over 36 years that made him famous. He once shared that his recipe for success was realizing that fashion must adapt to the changes of time.
You know, fashion is not needed. There may oral problems in the world who may be more important, so that is not the problem, but it's an industry. And, you know, fashion has to go with time. If fashion doesn't go with time, fashion would be lost.
Lagerfeld was one of the most recognizable fashion designers in the world. He's the only designer who could make black and white colorful as he strut his stuff in his signature uniform. Always clad in a black suit, white shirt, pompadour ponytailed hair, fingerless gloves, and sunglasses. He was equally famous for sparing no expense on his fashion show catwalks, such as this one at the Great Wall of China in 2007. Lovers of his designs in Paris and around the world shared what they'll miss most about Lagerfeld.
It was very chic, of course, but with a lot of originality.
I love my designer clothes. People know me, I have my swag. But Karl, he's like one of the best for me. Do you know what I mean? I don't really do Chanel and Louis and all that.
A moment of silence at London's Fashion Week.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we start the show, let's take a moment to remember the brilliant Karl Lagerfeld.
Lagerfeld was 85 years old.
US President Donald Trump signed a directive to start the process of creating a new Space Force within the Air Force. Trump initially said he wanted a Space Force separate but equal to other military services, but this directive makes it part of the Air Force. He said he plans to usher in the force by 2020, but the legislation will have to be approved by Congress, now controlled by the Democrats. During the signing ceremony, Trump called the Space Force a national security priority.
U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders is running for president again. This after the 77-year-old Democratic Socialist fiercely challenged Hillary Clinton for the presidency back in 2016. He vows to win this time around by convincing voters he's the best candidate to repair the damage caused by Donald Trump.
Our campaign is about redoubling our efforts to end racism, sexism, homophobia, religious bigotry, and all forms of discrimination. We are running against a president who is a pathological liar, a fraud, a racist, a sexist, a xenophobe, and someone who is undermining American democracy as he leads us in an authoritarian direction. I am running for president because now more than ever, we need leadership that brings us together, not divides us up. The United States must lead the world in improving international cooperation in the fight against climate change, militarism, authoritarianism, and global wealth inequality.
Back in Hong Kong, localist Edward Leung told the court today that he never thought of using violence against police during the Mong Kok unrest 3 years ago. Kaina Chu has more now on his retrial.
Leung Tin Kei, commonly known as Edward Leung, was taken to the High Court in a prison van this morning. He is serving a 6-year prison sentence for his involvement in the 2016 Mong Kok arrest, but the jury failed to return a verdict last year on one of his riot charges, leading the Department of Justice to apply for a retrial. In court today, Leung said hawkers appealed to Hong Kong indigenous for support in Mong Kok on the evening of February 8, 2016. He was a spokesperson of the localist group back then. First, he was reluctant to agree as he was busy with his election campaign for a LegCo by-election. He also worried he would be misunderstood as using the moment to promote himself and solicit votes. Still, he made an appearance at around 9 p.m. Leung witnessed police officers using pepper spray and wielding batons on protesters in Shantung Street. The situation only improved after he announced an election rally of less than 30 people which did not require police permission. Leung said it was suggested by his election assistant and another former spokesperson of Hong Kong indigenous, Ray Wong. He also hoped to position Hong Kong indigenous between the police and protesters so that officers wouldn't use force. He said he had never thought of using violence against police officers. The hearing will continue tomorrow and Leung will be cross-examined for at most 2 days. Kaina Chu, TVB News.
A security guard died after he was found unconscious this morning on the rooftop of a building in Chim Sa Choi. Police were called to the scene at around 7 a.m. The 50-year-old was found unconscious inside a staff toilet. Officers found bruises on his face and body. The man was sent to Queen Elizabeth Hospital, where he was certified dead. Police are investigating the case to determine whether there was any foul play. And lawmakers approved a funding request of $6.8 billion for the new immigration headquarters in Tseung Kwan O. 25 lawmakers voted for the request during the Public Works Subcommittee's meeting today. 1 objected and 9 abstained. The new building is expected to be completed in 2023. The funding has to go before the Finance Committee for vetting in April. All right, Tony, over to you for sport.
Yes, football roundup. We start with Champions League, and Bayern Munich's scoring drought at Liverpool continued in the first leg of their round of 16 clash. This marks the 4th straight game the German champions failed to find the net at Anfield. By denying Bayern an away goal, Liverpool has a slight edge heading into the second leg. The Reds only need a scoring draw to advance to the last 8. On a quiet night in the competition, the other game between Lyon and Barcelona was also scoreless. The French side did a great job holding Barca stars Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez in check, leaving their hopes of causing a big upset in the return leg very much alive. Well, Barcelona will have the home crowd behind them when they host the second leg on March the 14th. Meanwhile, Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp insists that the pressure is on Bayern Munich, even though the return leg will be played in Germany.
I'm pretty sure that the opponent, Bayern, in this moment feels a bit better than we do. But we have 3 weeks, and day by day the result will feel a bit better for us and a bit worse for Bayern, because it's a 0-0 and it's the best draw you can get, and that will be a tough one again to play at Bayern, and if you need their result, But I think we would have, if we win tonight 1-0, what would have changed really? Then we can. Then a 0-0 is enough or whatever. That's pretty much. Or if we draw them with a 1-1 also, but that's now enough as well. So not perfect, but good enough to work with.
To tennis now, and Karolina Pliskova reached the round of 16 at the Dubai Tennis Championships after fending off an impressive challenge from Dominika Cibulkova. Fourth-seeded Pliskova appeared to be in total control after taking the opening set by breaking her opponent's serve twice. Cibulkova then raised her game in the second set to force a decider, but Pliskova, a former world number one, steamrolled through the final set to win 6-2, 3-6, 6-3.
Game, set a match. Pliskova by 2 sets to 1. 6-2, 3-6, 6-3.
And that is a wrap of our news.
Thanks for watching.
That was what we moved here for, was to breed alpacas.
It was the biggest impulsive decision they made, and it turned out to be one of their best.
We just fell in love with it. We got caught along with the excitement. I feel confident in what we do here.
Returning